What is going on, everybody? It is lunchtime, lunch with the Clydesdale. We are here again this week, kicking it off strong. Dart throw time. I got a feeling. Oh my gosh, it must have been gas. Because I didn't even come close to the dartboard. Dang, man. I'm gonna have to patch some holes. I keep this stuff up. I've got to hit that bullseye at least one time. One time. I know. I'm going to throw a second one. I can't end like that. All right. One more time. Yeah, I got to give up today. There we go. All right. What's going on, Lido? Holly? Good to see you guys in the chat. Corey Leonard's in the chat. Let me start with this. So I come into work this morning and I am scheduled for an 8-hour meeting. An 8-hour meeting. And here what it is I work in reemployment services, where people are trying to find a new job. We try to help them with that, with interviewing skills, with things like that. I work on the systems that help them kind of track all of that stuff. Our unemployment system, also our unemployment office, works with us. People get unemployed, they're looking to get reemployed. Unemployment is getting a whole new system. They have scheduled 3 8-hour meetings today, tomorrow, and Wednesday to go over every piece of correspondence that's getting sent out of their new system for us to then make sure that they capture anything that needs to be said to these people who have been laid off from their job and are collecting unemployment to help them find us to get reemployed. So basically what I do is I have the meeting in an earbud in one ear, and I listen, and if anything comes up from my area, that's when I have to speak up. But the rest of the time, which so far 4 hours into this first 8-hour meeting, has been zero. Zip. Zilch. I already want to drive a nail through my forehead. So when we do systems enhancements, we do like a series of 2-hour meetings so that people can actually pay attention and be alert when stuff comes up. This 8-hour meeting stuff, things are going to get missed because nobody can pay attention when the attention isn't on them for 8 hours. I mean, literally this morning, I have them in my right ear and Savon in my left ear because I just couldn't take it anymore. So that's my day, and I've got 2 more days of that coming up. But I think I'm going to take a little bit of me time, either at the end of this week or to go into next week around the 4th of July holiday, just to give myself some extra time to get a few things done around the house. I haven't taken any time off this year. Usually I'm like at different semifinal events, so I take a bunch of time off. I haven't taken anything off this year. So yeah. Jody says, that's all of us. 1 ear here, 1 ear there. Yeah, generally, like I just play. Oh, generally, I don't have work talking to me during the day. I'm doing work while I have other stuff in my ear, but I don't have somebody like a meeting going on. Usually when a meeting goes on, I shut off the other stuff and I pay attention in the meeting. But most of my meetings are 30 minutes or less. 8 hours is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I'm going to go down through a series of things. Dave already put out his week in review. It was live from Albany. He was on the floor of the arena. I think it's going to be a really cool place to have the CrossFit Games. But nothing earth-shattering came out of his week in review. He talked about Tia coming back and how happy he was for that. And he talked about the crossover double unders. I thought the one interesting question from that was that the barbell spin asked if they were going to have to use the official rope of the CrossFit Games, and Dave was not able to answer that at this time, as he said it was to be determined still. So that is interesting there. I'm still kind of amazed that they're in the games, because I know I've heard Dave say he didn't like them when Boz put them in a few years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to be used. And Dave did kind of go into that. Just because they know they're coming doesn't mean they know how they're going to be used. So I don't know how you make that a little bit different, but anyway, there's that. Has to be a sponsor obligation, in my opinion. Sure, the jump rope has to be a sponsor obligation, but the type of jump roping does not have to be a sponsor obligation, in my guess. Again, I used to be really close with Dave Newman. He was a sponsor of the show for a couple years early on in our and we used to have him on every quarter. And he said that he would have conversations with Dave and people at CrossFit, but he didn't have the control to say what was going to be done. So I think that's pretty interesting. Lito said that specific jump rope that was made for tricks, triple unders, crossovers. Okay. I did not know that. So there we go. And Denise is wondering if they will have them at the Masters games. Yeah. And again, Masters games probably is going to have a completely different set of sponsors. Well, not completely different, but a good chunk of different sponsors. So it could be something different entirely with different sponsor obligations. Last night we kind of kicked off the show talking about the road to the games, and the more and more I think about it, I think the road to the games are dead. Unless there's a big change to next season with the road to the games, and if they continue the road to the games, I think they're dead. The people that are doing them are not getting the stories we need to hype us up for the games. And that is what the road to the games were in the past. It was going in, learning about an athlete, and getting you excited to then root for that athlete as they get to the CrossFit Games. And how would that translate? And how would that affect their performance? How would they do at the games? That created excitement that got us at the games. In a year we needed that more than ever. It came too late, and the people that are doing them are not, as Jody put, not getting the fans invested. There's just not enough content of storytelling in this latest version of Road to the Games to get me invested in anything. They should leave Road to the Games and instead hype the tier and WFP docs instead. Yeah, I think what I have not watched a lot of the tier ones. I've watched every single one of the WFP ones, and I've watched all of the Hiller ones. I think Hiller's done a nice job with storytelling. I think WFP is hit or miss on the storytelling. I did not like the last WFP at all either, where they did Pat Vellner and Danielle Brandon at Tour Stop 1. I don't think I learned anything there. There was no storytelling there. And this last Road to the Games with the two Lucys, I said it last night. I adore Lucy Campbell. I think she is one of the biggest stories in the space right now. And to completely ignore that story and just show her working out and saying that one time she was a swimmer, and she's a favorite to be a top 10 athlete after taking 2 years off from a serious career-threatening wrist injury. And the fact that they did not even touch on that, to an extent that told me that story, they should be ashamed. They should just be ashamed. And I don't know much about Lucy McGonigal. Other than she's a young athlete in a sport that I want to know more about, and I didn't get to learn anything. That was really, really bad. Sorry. That means less money they have to spend and just promote what's already really good and out there. Jody's actually more excited about the games so she can meet all the people she's met in the chat. Yeah, that's one way to get people excited. Tears amazing. They go all the way back to them being kids and family. Is also chipping in. Abby Domitz was amazing. Jeff too. I know I've seen a couple. I'll have to go back and watch for sure. And I will give them a review as well. Train to Live says, I wish the road to the games were longer. The storylines are way too short. I don't want them to be longer if they're not going to change the format. If they change the format, then okay, let's give them a little more time to develop the story. But they're not even starting the development of the story for me to get excited to want it to be longer. Denise, Scott, how are your allergies today? Denise, my allergies are just up and down right now. 1 minute I'm feeling pretty good. The next minute it just comes over me like a tidal wave. I don't know. It's been a rough couple weeks. I had a really good weekend where rain washed away a lot of stuff. I got a lot of yard work done. I got a lot of things accomplished. And then Sunday night just got hit with right after the show last night. Went upstairs and got hit with just a tidal wave of allergies. It's been awful. So yeah, I'll check out the tier stuff. I'll give a couple reviews on that. If you didn't hear last night, my review of the Lucy's Road to the Games is my lowest grade so far this year. And that is a D. I give it a D. Probably should have given it an F, but I gave it a D. And again, that's the lowest grade I've given out this year. Last night I also talked about Metfix and my confusion with Metfix. I've had Pete Shaw on trying to explain to me. Hiller was in the chat last night trying to explain to me his thoughts and his views. And I've really been, because I did research trying to interview Pete and trying to understand what they are trying to accomplish and where it's coming from. I've been really confused about it. And then leave it to my old friend Athena Perez, who I love and adore to death. I read her post on Metfix, and all of a sudden the clarity was there. And I did take a couple notes of reading her thing, and I wanted to share kind of where it's put me. The way Athena put it was that early on, CrossFit created this plan to get you back to metabolic health. And a lot of that had to do with body movement, but it also had a very simple fitness in 100 words. It starts with nutrition. Eat nuts and seeds, little fruit, no sugar, no starch, whatever, that whole bit. I don't know it off the top of my head, but very simple. And when I started CrossFit, I weighed over 500 pounds. I lost 250 pounds. I lost that just by the simple fact of only eating when I was hungry and having only having like healthy foods available to me. My thought was, if I'm putting something in the body, is that thing that I'm putting in there helping me or hurting me? And that's how I approached my nutrition, that simply, and it worked. What the big red flag for me that came out of my Pete Shaw interview is, I asked him that I said to him, a lot of people don't understand what you're saying because you're using very scientific terms and you're doing things in a way that are not easy to understand. And his response was, they want to do it in a way to force people to go look into it more themselves. That is a red flag to me. You are trying to cure the world's most vexing problem, 60% obesity rate in this country, and I'm sure it's spreading worldwide. Why are you trying to make it complicated for people to take another step in? And the way Athena looked at it was, it's like the door is half open. It's almost like it's a cool kids club. Can you come in, or are you not allowed to come in? And I like that analogy of the whole thing is, if you're making it so scientific that only cool kids can understand it and come in, then you're not fixing the problem. You're not putting it in a way that makes people understand and can actually put it into practice. I was embarrassed that I didn't see this for myself. As someone who started CrossFit at 500 pounds, I was welcomed in with open arms, and I was loved on by the coaches, by the members of that gym, and I was helped to get through that process. And they made it simple. And the nutrition in CrossFit, even though at the L1 it's only a small piece, at the affiliate level it's always there. It's always present, and it's always there for you. And that's the piece that I actually mentioned to Pete Shaw in that interview, and he kind of tried to counter that with it. He's been in gyms where donuts are on the counter or gummy bears are on the counter, and I've never seen that in any gym that I've been a part of. And I've been in a gym that was just a bunch of average Joes with an average age of 45 to 50. And I've also been in a gym with Christy Aramo O'Connell and her husband, who are both freakishly fit, and her mother, who's freakishly fit. And that stuff was never on the counters at that gym either. And they preached good nutrition habits. So I'm embarrassed that I missed out on really diving into that aspect of it. And she also pointed out that the people selling this new nutrition are not people who came up through the CrossFit way, who never lifted a barbell, who never did those CrossFit workouts, and they're up at a whiteboard trying to explain to you the science of it all. And that is a red flag for her. And that makes a ton of sense to me. And then the overarching thing in her article, which was also in Hiller's stuff, was that there's nothing different. That, in Greg's own words, nothing has changed in 20 years. And I think that where I was getting hung up is, it does make sense that if you're going to go deeper into a nutrition subject, it's a great extension to what already exists. But because they're trying to create their own affiliates, they're not trying to be an extension of something that already exists. They are trying to compete with what already exists and doing it in a different way, and won't admit that fact. That's the part that sends this down a bad path. By creating their own affiliate system, it's sending it in a direction of competition as opposed to a partnership. So I've known Athena for 5 years now. Athena was a major part of my life for a good couple years. We used to talk every Friday afternoon, catch up on things, brainstorm ideas. She is an amazing person. And I missed her article because I don't read the morning chalk up anymore. I have too much PTSD from being there and being a part of that group and not enjoying my time there. And then I found she has a website where she puts all of her writings there in addition to where they appear in other things. And so I will make sure that I am up to date on her writings on her website, because it really did send one big piece of clarity to me over this whole thing. And it's true. And I truly believe this. And I said this to Pete Shaw, that nutrition is at the affiliate level. That is where I learned nutrition when I came into CrossFit. It was not at my L1. I learned it from my coach. I learned it from my members. That's where I learned nutrition. I've missed all the comments. So I am going to Train to Live. I like Carolyn's take on it, that it should just be a course. And CrossFit has added a nutrition course that's a one-day supplement to what already exists. Doug Reed, the CrossFit Pyramid is the most profound model for thinking about fitness priorities and progression. It's simple and it makes sense. Lido, I don't think the nutrition side is present in any affiliate. A lot of gyms have literally got cafes that sell lots of baked goods, etc. That is not my experience. I have done drop-ins all over the country. My job used to have me travel, and I've been doing CrossFit since 2011. I used to drop in everywhere that I traveled to for work. I have never been in a gym where baked goods were an option, where gummy bears were on the counter. Never, ever, never. I'm sorry that you've had a different experience, because I've not had that experience at all. Doug Reed, at Lido, our gym does talk about the importance of nutrition. I choose to ignore it. And that is your prerogative. You look like Captain America, so you can choose that. Corey Leonard, I'm so glad my box is old school. We have nutrition seminars at least once a year. Still write the workout name scores on an actual whiteboard and believe in making people better. And Train to Live says same. Lido, I think most do. We try to do an 80-20 approach because we're trying to be more realistic. And then Doug says that he ignores it so Corey Leonard can feel better about himself. We're all trying to help Corey out. All trying to. That's the main goal of everything. But yeah, if you do not subscribe to Athena's email list, I highly recommend it. And if you did not read her article on what is Metfix, it is a great read. And I think it really simplifies everything that's going on. I've been to, like I said, I've been a member of 2 different affiliates here in Columbus. Both of them have put a very big emphasis on nutrition. And the first gym I belonged to even hired on a full-time nutrition coach. And you could meet with them free of charge with your membership to get a plan in place from them. So I think that there are affiliates out there doing it the right way. And I'm so glad that those were the ones that I found and that got me on the right path. And Suck on these nuts says eat nuts. Yep. And seeds as well. All right. My last big take for the day is If you weren't with us Friday, Judy Reed says justice for Corey. And Corey says, respectfully, Judy, they can get bent. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm assuming Corey's not heard any new news over the weekend, or he has blocked them permanently. I don't know. My last thing is last night, we were doing some fact or fiction, and we were picking like our top 5 for the games. And one of the fact or fictions were that there are no less than 8 men who have an opportunity to win the CrossFit Games. And Carolyn and I each kind of picked our 8 that could. Carolyn thought 8 was too many. She really wanted it 7 or 6. I am in the belief that there are 8 people that can win the CrossFit Games. In the chat was Kenneth Delap, who is the biggest Colten Mertens fan I know of. And he kept putting Colten in there. And I said, there's no way that Colten can win the CrossFit Games. So I want to clarify. I'm going to reframe it today. If Colten Mertens wins the CrossFit Games, it will be a greater feat than Rich and Matt's streak of wins. And when I say that, I say it with love. I have known Colten since well before he made his first games. We were the first podcast he ever came on. I have hung out with him at events. I've hung out with him and Allie together. They are amazing people, and he has overcome so many hurdles. What my view of that man is that years ago they said he couldn't make the games. He made the games. Years ago they said he couldn't do well at the games. His highest finish at the games to this date has been 18th. 18th. That is a big jump from 18th to winning. Because of his height and because of the tasks that will be given to him over a long weekend, to overcome each one of those tasks, he has to exert extra energy to do so. And he has built his fitness up so much that he's able to do that many of the times. But it still takes extra energy in each one of those events to do so. At the CrossFit Games, because it's a longer event with 9 or 10 or 11 or 15 events, that extra exertion of energy compounds greater at that event than it does at semifinal events or Crash Crucibles or NorCal Classics, all of those events. So if Colten would win the CrossFit Games, it would mean that he's exerting more effort at a higher rate and for a longer duration than every other athlete in the field. It's like winning the CrossFit Games with one arm tied behind your back. Do I think that he can get in the top 10? Do I think he can get in the top 5? I do. I do think he could get in the top 5. But I worry about him, just like watching Christy Aramo O'Connell top out at 8th place at the CrossFit Games. She was a smaller athlete. For her to lift against the Tias and the Ariels and the Lauras, she just could not compete in those lifting events. Every other fitness-related technical thing that she could do, she crushed, and she was right there with Tia. But those things where she just couldn't make up enough to make a difference to get to the top 5, the top 3. When Kristen Holta podiumed, that was an amazing accomplishment. When these smaller athletes can do something to that and do something like that, it is such a major accomplishment because they are overcoming just the size differential with these other athletes, in addition to taking on the event itself and everybody else. So, do I want Colten to win the games? I want Colten to win the games. I think that would be the greatest story we have ever seen on the men's side of the CrossFit Games. But know that for him to do that is such a tremendous feat. It will take a perfect alignment of the stars for that to happen. He is the coolest trash talker in the game. He is amazing at what he does. He is so smart. Like I've had I talked about this last week, my lost interview with him with the Morning Chalk Up, and the way he analyzed why he got cut so early at the games that first year he made it as an individual was because his whole focus was about making it to the games. And he did everything he could in those aspects to make it to the games. He had to ignore the aspects to do well at the games. And those were all things he was thinking of hours after he was cut. And he has made himself to be a threat in a lot of events, single events at the games. And he is going to be up there in the top 5 in a lot of those. But there are going to be some where he's going to have to really push to an extreme level or be behind everybody else and make up that ground. And it's just harder now. So, do I want Colten to win the games? I want him to win the games so bad. Do I think he can win the games? I don't think he can. But I do think he can be top 5. And I do think if, just like Kristen Holte, if the stars align in a year, he could be podium finisher. But I don't think with everything he has to overcome that a games win is in his sights. Corey Leonard, if anyone can win with one hand tied behind their back, it's the Iron Hog. Lito says amen to that. Jody says it'd be so cool. Kenneth, the biggest Iron Hog supporter, is right there. There's the Colten train. Backed on the Metfix. Lito says Metfix lost me when they started saying that fruits is bad because it has fructose. Fruit was made by God. God is good. Fruit is good. And Lito says just can't get on board with no or even little fruit, Corey. Yeah, I love fruit. I am a huge, I love pineapple and cherries and grapes. And I'll even like concede to some strawberries. I used to hate strawberries, but now kind of like them. Strawberries and blueberries. And I love blackberries. If blackberries didn't have seeds that got stuck in my teeth all the time, I would eat the hell out of some blackberries. So Tristan Patrick in the house. Metfix is CrossFit nutrition to make money. Yeah. I think, again, like I think that Athena's article on her view is what I needed to just clear it up. And now it's clear. They are trying to compete with CrossFit. I just wish Greg would say his true feelings about what it is. and say, like, I believe in the broken science. That is where I'm at. That is what my passion is, to fight against the evils that are out there in the world trying to give bad science. That's what his passion is. I don't think he wants to get in the nitty gritty of all this. And I wish he'd just say it and say that, hey, these are the people running it. This is what they're doing. And I'm over here doing my own thing, fighting the good fight against the evils of the world and the sugar industry and the sodas and all that kind of stuff. Peter says, Metfix is 2007 CrossFit. It really is. They had two ways to go about it. Either compete with CrossFit, which I think is the route they're going, even though they're saying they're not. And then the other route was to be an extension of CrossFit. And they went well beyond that. Clock says, I juice blackberries and beets. I'm all with you on the juice blackberries. The beets, man. So here's a nutrition story for you. When I was in high school, I played football in the fall, and then I swam in the winter. At football, I played right tackle my junior and senior year. And I would play at 210 pounds. To swim and be at my best, I had to be at 175, 180. So I would try to lose weight as quickly as I could, because I had about 2 weeks between football and swim practice to get into shape for the other. And then the first 2 weeks in the water were just hell every year. Hell. So I did the Cleveland Clinic diet back then. And it had, like, it was so prescribed. Like, for breakfast on Monday, you will eat this. For lunch on Monday, you'll eat this. For supper, you'll eat this. And this is your snack. And it would do that for every day of the week. And it changed every meal. But they put beets in so many of those meals, and I had to eat so many beets during that time. If someone put a beet in front of me right now, I think I would vomit to this day. And that was 30 years ago. Beets just, I'm done. They were fine for the first few weeks of doing that, and then couldn't handle them ever again. Even when I see, like, pickled eggs in the beet juice, like, my stomach gives a little, yeah. Corey says, Tristan is my favorite coach that doesn't coach me. There you go. Tristan's a dude, man. Tristan is the dude. So, yeah. So that's my beet story and why I do not like beets and can't eat them to this day. And I know a lot of people have said beets to me in this chat, and every time, like, I'm holding back the vomit when I hear that. Oh, so bad. So bad. But anyway. Well, guys, I think the only other thing I had was, I guess the morning chalk up is saying that Cale Layman's telling his side of the story. I didn't even go in to read the article. I saw Hiller's response that it was a joke. Has anybody read the article? Was it anything earth shattering in that article? I don't know. I have very little respect for the morning chalk up after I work there. And so I don't really dive into the articles. And a lot of times in the past, I see a headline that I want to read more of, and I would go in, and then it was on their paywall. I was like, ugh. And that seemed to be the only times I wanted to read articles is when they hid them behind the paywall. Train to Live says, don't waste my time. Corey says, apparently he was all tuckered out after that first run, and it just ruined his weekend. And you're talking about the Mayhem Classic. Lido, beets and Greek yogurt with a pinch of salt and garlic, chef's kiss. Oh, Lido, Lido. And I used to hate yogurt. I actually don't mind it now. I like, when I was traveling with Jamie, she would make us like yogurt parfaits to have in our backpacks to eat during competitions to get us through. And I love those. I've learned that you just have to get the right yogurt and not like the cheap stuff. And that works. Ariel is big on beets. Well, good for Ariel. I will cheer her from the sidelines as I always do. But I just will not eat another beet. Corey wants to know, Lido, is Greek yogurt just called yogurt where you are? I can't wait to meet Lido. She's going to be at the Masters Games. Excited to meet her. And she says, correct, Corey. I did put in my full proposal for behind the scenes of the Masters CrossFit Games. We'll see what happens there. Hopefully I've had enough goodwill with the guys, and I did a good enough job with the one last year that they'll let me do it again this year. I believe we're good to go, but I just need to get the official. I'd love to bring on Corey as one of the people interviewing behind the scenes, but I'm just afraid people wouldn't understand him with the Cajun accent. Because he wants to hang with Lido for sure. So, yeah, I wanted to. It's gonna be an interesting week because Jamie and Carolyn are both going to be competing. We're going to try to do a behind the scenes if we're permitted to do so. It's going to be a lot going on that weekend, and then all my friends that I've learned, all my friends that I've made over the last few years are going to be awesome to see them again. Denise and all of those with you. So, gosh, so many people. Jake Gazan in the chat. Alex likes beet salads, but I'm with you, Scott. I absolutely hate beets. Amen, brother. How you doing, by the way? Everybody recovering good in your family? I see you're trying to get back to work. Are you back to work already, Jake? Jay Birch thinks Corey can speak proper English when he needs to. He's not the master of accents like you are, Jay Birch, though. I just throw out an accent and Jay Birch can nail it. So, and just to clear it up, Lido says they've got a gazillion different brands of yogurt and Greece, but yeah, they're all yogurt. They don't have just Greek yogurt, or is all yogurt Greek yogurt, so it's just yogurt. They don't even let the other stuff into the building, into the country. All right, well. Kind of like Brazil nuts in Brazil. Yeah, and French fries in France. Jake says, I'm back to work. Alex's leg is still hurting pretty bad, though. All right, man. I'll keep her in my prayers. I would have liked to see her full strength going up against Tia. We talked about that last night on the Sunday night show. Gosh, I think she could give Tia a push. And I would have loved to have seen that. Glad you're back to work though, buddy. With that, guys, I got to get back to my 8-hour meeting. So with that, I will see you all tomorrow on Lunch with the Clydesdale, because you knuckleheads need to get back to work. Get back to work too. With that, catch you all later. Bye, guys.